Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Jeevan. I'm a fourth year medical student studying in Poland. And if you guys would like to know which Polish medical university I go to, as always, make sure to go and check out this video here. Let's get straight into the video. Now this time it's not going to be a reaction to a history video, but more actually on the economy side of Poland. Now there actually hasn't been any reaction videos to the sort of economy status of Poland, and so I thought it would be interesting to sort of jump onto that, and yeah, so let's try it out. So today's video that we're going to be reacting to is Poland. How is it getting rich? So let's get straight into it. Let's go. Water.
First question, can a poor country reasonably aspire to become a high-income one within a few years? Second question, how much time would they really need? And third question, how would they do it? Dear viewer, these are some of the most common questions that you send us. Here on this channel, we've seen in various videos how...
Sorry to interrupt, but I have actually stayed here. Actually, in one of these apartments, there's a really nice Airbnb here. Very nice.
All countries have managed to change their luck and become locomotives. Well, dear viewer, in this video, I want to tell you about a very particular case. I want to tell you about Poland, because Poland's becoming something of a new Germany. Well, listen up.
New Germany. Okay. Visual politic. Right then.
Here's a question for you, and as always, please do not Google it. Which do you think is the city with the most Polish inhabitants? Warsaw? Maybe Krakow? Well, wrong. Actually,
London.
It would be Chicago. 2 million Polish people live in Chicago.
Oh.
Yes, we are really not kidding here.
I thought London, actually.
Dear viewer, it's not been easy for Poles. During the Second World War, Poland was the country that suffered the most. No less than 1 out of every 5 Poles, that's almost 6 million people, which is the conservative estimate, by the way, lost their lives. And after that disaster, they endured 44 years of a communist government, who, in addition to exerting an enormous amount of political repression, also left them as a poor country. In 1989, when this system came to an end, Poland's per capita income was between 3 and 5 times smaller than that of developed countries such as Italy, France, or the United Kingdom. But just hold on a second, because they've really changed. Poland, a country located halfway between Paris and Moscow and has 40 million inhabitants, completely changed its model. And since they've done this, their economy has grown by over 4% every year. Alright, so now you might be thinking, did I just put too much emphasis on 4% a year? Because it doesn't sound that impressive. I mean, this is especially if you compare it to the pretty crazy growth rates that you can see in the Asian tigers. 4% kind of sounds like a joke, right? Well, folks, if you are thinking that, you are missing a couple of important details. The first is that we're talking about almost 25 years of uninterrupted economic growth here. Not even the Great Crisis of 2008 and 2009 really affected this country at all. We could say that Poland's moving kind of like a giant cargo ship. It's not the fastest ship on the water for sure, but it has moved an incredible distance. Put another way, young Polish people have pretty much no idea what an economic crisis is like. The second detail is also very important here, because unlike what happens with the Asian tigers, Poland has had this huge growth while being a consolidated democracy. And by the way, that really kind of dispels an important myth here, and that's that countries need a strong hand in order to grow.
That's Krakow.
Well, anyway, thanks to this growth, Poland has had an amazing 25 years. This country has gone from having average salaries of between 10 to 15,000 American dollars per month to having a per capita income, taking into account each country's price difference, that in 2018 will be higher than that of Greece, Portugal, and every Latin American country. And the reality is, it's also not really that far behind Spain or Italy either. But having gotten to this point, I think there's a question that we really need to answer. How did they achieve this? Well, listen up, because that's what we're going to talk about in today's video.
I want you to buy some bricks, but these bricks are very, very
The end of an era.
For 44 years, from 1945...
The end of an era.
For 44 years, from 1945 to 1989, the socialist state of the People's Republic of Poland, a satellite country of the Soviet Union, was in power. By the way, to give you an idea of how great Moscow's control was, it's said that when, in 1950, the Polish leader Boleslaw Bierut showed Joseph Stalin himself a draft of the future Polish constitution, that the leader of the Soviet Union made dozens of corrections by hand, which of course were taken into account. Anyway, the Polish regime was one of the least harsh in the entire Soviet orbit. For example, most of the land wasn't collectivized, the Catholic Church was allowed to function with relative freedom, and even though political repression was high, it wasn't quite as intense as it was in other countries. Even so, of course, as in any good socialist country, the state controlled almost everything, and in 1989, its economy completely shattered. Now, thanks to all these small freedoms, a real political opposition emerged, led, among others, by Lech Walesa, the leader of the Independent Solidarity Union, the first free union of all Eastern European countries. Thanks to this, when the Soviet Union's power began to crumble, Poland became the first country in Eastern Europe to set its political transition in motion to completely abandon communism. And so, on June the 4th, 1989, the first relatively free elections were held, and with that, there was no turning back.
Solidarności. Good for you guys, good for you.
Shock therapy.
Just a few months after the first elections in September of 1989, the Minister of Finance, Leszek Balcerowicz, set a plan on the table to shred the entire communist fabric and to replace it with a capitalist model. 3 months later, this shock therapy, as it's been known, was launched.
Poland exerted a liberal program called shock therapy. The idea was either the patient improves or dies. From one day to the next, everything was liberalized in a very rigid and centralized economy in which prices and needs had nothing to do with reality. He called it the lunar economy. Everything was fiction. Piotr Pieniecznia-Olszynski, Polish diplomat.
Suddenly, everything changed. Prices were liberalized, controls were lifted, people were able to set up private businesses, they stopped printing money, the economy began to open up to the world, and a plan was launched to privatize public enterprises. So, within a short time, not even the Poles could recognize Poland. Also, the government had a very clear idea about the future. Poland needed to get as far away from Russia as possible and strengthen its ties with the rest of Europe and the United States. So what was the result of all of this? Well, a few years later, they joined both the European Union and NATO. Now, what model do you think the country has followed since then?
Change, of course.
Now, we've already told you plenty of times, the world is getting better, poverty is decreasing, and countries are getting richer. But despite this, belonging to the club of rich countries is still a difficult mission. Even so, everything points to Poland achieving this within a very short amount of time. Dear viewer, this country is becoming Eastern Europe's Germany.
Eastern Europe's Germany. Okay, I can imagine that. I can kind of understand that.
See, Poland has become an industrial powerhouse, flooded with multinationals, and like in Germany, its small and medium-sized companies have begun to cross the border. The result? Well, since 1989, its foreign trade has multiplied by more than 25. Polish exports amount to almost $200 billion per year, which represents more than 40% of the country's GDP, which is a seriously high number.
Oh wow, that's so fantastic.
This simply explains why Polish roads are full of trucks. So now you must be wondering, well, how are they achieving all of this? What on earth is the key to their success? Well, dear viewer, take note here. The Polish recipe has 4 main ingredients. First, the establishment of institutions that attract a lot of foreign investment, legal security, property rights, ease of setting up companies, and competition. For example, 14 special economic zones have been created where any interested company can gain many advantages. Second, strict controls of public accounts. Poland's government is one of the most healthy in the European Union. Public debt, for example, is barely 50% of the GDP. And almost as importantly, since 1989, they have been set on fighting inflation, so no printing bills to finance the government. Basically, the opposite of countries like Argentina. Third, quality education. Yep, you heard that right. Poland has managed to make their educational system work. And they've done it without wasting huge amounts of money. Its rate of university students is higher than the average of the European Union. 9 out of 10 young people complete secondary education. And according to international studies, the Polish education system is one of the 10 best, not just in Europe, but in the whole world.
I didn't know that.
And fourth, there's moderate taxes. For example, companies are taxed 19%, while small companies are taxed 15%. And income tax breaks down into 2 brackets, 18% for the first 24,000 and 32% for the rest. And in addition, because Poland is a fairly conservative country, families have even more advantages. So if we take into account both personal taxes and pension payments, Poland is the 4th OECD country where families pay less direct taxes.
One average.
So, it's with these 4 ingredients that Poland has managed to become Eastern Europe's Germany, an export and industrial power with a healthy government and a quality of life that just keeps on growing. The best proof of this is perhaps that within a few years, the great power of the East has gone from being a country of emigrants to a country of immigrants.
Country of emigrants to a country of immigrants.
In recent years, if something has characterized the Polish economy, it's the simple availability of work. Unemployment is approaching 6%, and many companies are beginning to have a problem finding workers.
Initially, foreign companies would only look for highly experienced employees with titles. Now they take everyone and give them a month of training if necessary. Roman Palik, entrepreneur.
And of course, if companies need a lot of workers and can't find them, well, wages go up.
The average gross salary in the first quarter of 2018 was 7.1% higher than in the same period in 2017. Average gross salary exceeds $1,400 per month, the Central Statistics Office of Poland.
And you know what this situation has led to? Well, first, many young Poles who until recently left en masse to rich European Union countries now are deciding to stay. And second, in recent years, more than 2 million Ukrainians have settled in Poland, especially young people looking for better opportunities than the ones they could find in their country of origin. This means that Poland now has more people arriving than leaving. Now, as we always say at Visual Politic, not everything is so great. Poland is facing quite a serious aging problem, and the Law and Justice Party, a very nationalist and very conservative party, won every recent election and now controls the country. Some of their decisions have caused the European Union to threaten Poland with sanctions and even suspend their rights as a member, but that's something we're going to address in a future video. Now it's your turn. Do you think Poland would be a good example for Cuba, or would the Chinese model actually be better? Well, leave your answer in the comment section below, as well as in this survey. And I really hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe.
Right, okay. I mean, economy was never really on my side generally in school, but I have heard that Poland has one of the fastest growing economic growths in Europe. So, and the fact that one day it could be Germany's Eastern Europe, why not? Actually, why not? I mean, hats off to Poland as well. I mean, despite them being under communist control, now it becomes so international, and Poland has everything. All the things you need to buy, you've got it, especially in the big cities. So yeah, very impressive. Alright guys, so if you've come to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and the post notification bell. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.